getting things started here. I just want Okay, I had the audio coming through the wrong source, so hold on. Okay, I had the audio coming. Alright, this should be fine. If it gets too loud, then I'm sure someone will let me know. Okay, I think I'm ready to get started. So if you are watching this as a VOD, let me turn the music down a little bit. If you're watching this as a VOD, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be making the model that you see right here. This is a model of Ninja Brian from Ninja Sex Party. I have a potential use for this model in the future for an animation I have planned. So I figured it would be interesting if I could show you my process, how I go about doing my models. This isn't, I don't claim to be any kind of expert, so take what I do with a grain of salt. This is more a process of what I do, less about what I should be doing. But if you take away anything from this, then I'll consider that a success. Okay, so I did whip this up earlier today. I am not going to be using this in the future unless for some reason the one I end up making now is worse than this. But in terms of height reference and stuff like that, I will be just having this on in the background. If you feel like following along with, this isn't really a tutorial, but if you feel like following along, you will have to kind of estimate the heights and distances and stuff because this is kind of already pre-laid out for me. But if at any point you need clarification on something that I did or you're confused about something, just say it in the chat and I will reiterate. So the first thing I like to do, let me get stuff organized here. Sorry, I didn't have this organized properly and I probably should have. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the hands. This is a little counterintuitive. Normally you don't start with the hands, but with the way that I have the model laid out where the hands are actually a separate object altogether, it doesn't really matter what order you do it in. So I'm going to start with the hands because they are the more complex of all the other shapes. Yeah. So I'm going to start with a cube, and I'm going to toss a mirror modifier and a subdivision surface modifier. And the order of these doesn't really matter too much for the hand. It's when you get to the mesh that has a seam in the middle, that the mirror modifier will actually be merging the two. The order can matter, but for this, for the hands, it doesn't really matter in this case. We're going to swap over to edit mode, and I'm going to bring the hands up roughly to about where they would be on the model. Hello, Jared. I am good today. How are you? Okay, so it doesn't really matter too much getting it exact, but I am lining it up just for my own sanity's sake. Next thing I'm going to do is, you can see that the way I have the hands designed is 2 fingers, 1 index, and then kind of a clump to represent the rest, and then a thumb. And I do that half because that is sort of the style of the channel. If you look at their banner, you'll see that the fingers are extremely simple. But it's also very simple for me. It's a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to animate. So I'm doing it because I am lazy. But the way I get this is I add in 3 loop cuts. And I do that using Control-R in the scroll wheel, if you're following along. So I add in 3 loop cuts. You can see it's divided into 3 segments here. And now, because there are only 2 fingers, it might be simpler to have this loop completely gone, just getting rid of it altogether. But we keep it because that allows us to merge it into an octagonal shape at the back here, because 3 lines at the top, 3 lines on the bottom, and 2 on the sides equals an 8-sided figure. So typically when you do design like this, at least how I was taught, is you want to have things end in 8s. You want to have things end with 8 sides, because that makes it so that it's a lot smoother of a shape, and it can merge into smoother shapes. And when you add subdivisions to it, it looks a lot better. So that's typically how I approach things. For the hands, all I'm going to do, or for the fingers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these 2 faces that will act as these faces back here. I'm going to press the E key to extrude, and then when I get it to the length I want it to be, I'm going to scale it down a little bit. So that's given us the length of the fingers and the taper that we're trying to go for. Next, we're going to add in these supporting loops. These are for the bones. When we rig the model, these loops allow the deformation to be more natural. Just having more geometry makes deformation a lot better in those areas. So once again, I'm going to click Control-R and then scroll up to get 2 of them spaced evenly. And once they're spaced evenly, what I can do is, with each of them selected, Control-B will let me bevel, and scrolling up will let me have 3 points spaced evenly. So once those are laid out, if I turn off the original model, you can see that I have lots of geometry to support deformation when we go to rig it. And even when I apply the subdivision surface modifier, you can see it spaces them out evenly, because that's what the algorithm is meant to do. Hello, Ian Burnett. Welcome to the stream. I'm going to be making this model right here. This is a model that I made earlier in the day, but I'm going to be recreating it to show you my process. And doing the index finger is very much like the other fingers, just extrude out, scale down to taper, and add in the loop cuts for geometry. Okay, so from the top, it looks like we got it right, but if you look at the sides, you'll see that there is a little bit of size difference here, and that's because we weren't really focusing on that spot yet. So for these fingers, what I like to do, if you look at your hand, you'll see that there's a little ball, you can think of it, a ball of mass where your thumb is. And so what I like to do is I like to push the faces of the fingers down and leave behind this little ball of mass. And that way it looks a lot more natural. So I'm going to switch over to edit mode. I'm going to grab these faces. And I can actually loop select them like that. And I'm going to hit the G key, lock it to the Z axis by pressing Z, and push it up. And I see that I didn't actually scale this face down when I did it before, so I'm just going to undo that, unselect this face, and do it one more time. So there we go. The hand, the fingers are looking a little bit better now, with them closer to how I had it before. And I'm going to do it the same with the index finger. So grab all these faces. Not this one, though. And push it upwards. There we go. So now if I turn off the original model, right, this is what we've got left. So this is a very low poly hand shape. It's not the best, but I do like how it comes out, especially when we apply the subdivision surface. If I swap out of edit mode there, you can see the makings of a hand are starting to take form. So I'm going to switch back to our poly view, or our low poly view, go back into edit mode, turn on our mesh, and finally we are going to do the thumb. And the thumb, very much the same as the other fingers, just grab the face, extrude out, whoops, scale down, and instead of doing 2 loop cuts, what we're going to do is we're going to do a loop cut about here, and we're going to bevel it, but we're going to add, instead of a loop cut for another joint, because you obviously don't have as many joints in your thumb as you do with your other fingers, is I'm just going to add some geometry here to support the joint. So no beveling at this point, just the loop cut. But now I'm going to turn off the mesh and turn on the subdivision, and that's our hand. So that's the first step in our models. And you can see, because I have the mirror modifier, it is actually placing the model on the other side of the x-axis here, or is it, yeah, the y-axis. So we don't have to like copy it and put it on the other side. And the advantage of that is even when, you know, I change stuff like, oh, I want it closer to here, the other side is also being modified as well. So it's a very useful tool to have. We are going to be collapsing it down at some point. We're going to be applying it to the mesh. Because when you rig it with bones, you can't have both sides mirroring each other. It's not how it works. So for now, we're going to leave it on, but it is going to be coming off at some point. So now that the hand is done, we're going to model the rest of the arm. I wish I had brought up. You know what? I should have a picture of Ninja Brian that I can use. Let me see if I can find it. Essentially, the way his sleeves are laid out is they're rolled up to a little bit more on the forearm past the elbow. So that's what we're going to be doing with our arm as well. Sorry, just pulling up a picture. I forgot to enable images as planes. Oh, I'm such a goof. There we go. Brian. Okay. So, oh my goodness. It doesn't even have his sleeves in the picture. Well, you can see his elbow would be about here, And then you can see there's a little bit more of his sleeve shown in the picture. So that got my point across, no problem. Next, like I said, we're going to be doing the rest of the arm. And what I mentioned before about how you want your cylindrical objects to have at least 8 sides in order to support it, what we're going to do is we're going to go into edit mode, and we're going to add a cylinder. And now, by default, the cylinder will show up with 32 sides, but we're going to turn that down to 8. That way it gives us the sides that we're looking for. And since we are still working with the mirror modifier, we're going to scale it down and bring it over, and it will still show up on the other side. We're going to rotate it like this, and we're going to line it up, scale it a little bit. We want it to be naturally where the wrist would be, so right below the thumb. And I'm going to move it over about here, but I'm going to bring up my model to show as reference. So I have the elbow ending, or the elbow is about here in my mesh, but I have the geometry of the forearm ending about here. So we're going to put the cylinder here. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. And then we're going to delete the faces that we don't need. So I'm going to grab these verts right here. We're going to delete those verticals, and then what we're left with is just a face that has 8 sides. Now the problem with an 8-sided shape like this is typically game engines don't really like to handle them. They'll try to convert them to polys or tris, and technically it doesn't really mean anything for Blender itself. It's just best practice to make sure that you aren't having more than 4-sided shapes. So what I like to do is I like to connect these polys together, or these verts together, and then I have no shapes that have more than 4 sides. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab these faces, and we're going to rotate it slightly, because if you see on the hand we have a ring of polygons going down the middle, but we don't have that on this shape here. So we're going to grab this, we're going to align the camera like this, and we're going to rotate it until the top is flat here, the sides are flat here, and it's all good to go. And next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these faces here. They're not necessary because we are going to be filling in the gap. And then one by one, I'm going to grab a face and connect it to the hexagon. I like to do this every other line because it makes it easier to connect them down when they're all connected. You'll see what I mean in a sec. Okay, so now that every other face is connected, what we're left with is these gaps, which I can then go in and use these bigger lines to connect them. Okay, and if I leave edit mode, you can see there's my hand and there's my forearm. So that's pretty much what I do. You'll see there is some weird stretching, you can call it here. That's because the subdivision surface modifier is still trying to average these points. So what I'm going to do to help reduce this stretching, as it were, is I'm going to go in, I'm going to grab these faces, and I'm going to inset it with the I key. And what that does is it makes it so that it has more geometry to average, and therefore it gives it a less gradual averaging, as it were. What I also did to make deformation easier, that's kind of what you focus on when you're animating. If I bring up my original model here, you can see I added geometry back here as well. So I'm going to turn this off one more time, and I'm going to just add in a loop cut so that I have just a little bit more geometry to work with when I go to animate the wrist. Okay, so those are my hands. That's actually all you need to model my style of hands. Next, I'm going to be moving on to the I guess you could call it torso, but it pretty much is the chest, the waist, and the elbows. And that is his shirt. So I'm going to turn on my model again, just so we can see what we're working with. I'm going to turn down the subdivision on this so that you can see what the actual geometry looks like before it is smoothed. It looks very, very odd when it's like this. But I'm going to... oh, that's another thing. You want to make sure that you are properly naming your geometry. You do not want to lose track of what is what. It can get very confusing if you don't, so just make sure you are naming your models. So I'm going to name these Brian _hands. All right, and for the shirt, I'm going to be adding in another cube. This time we are going to be doing a mirror modifier that will actually be joining vertices together. And because of that, it is important that we have a mirror modifier before we have a subdivision surface. These modifiers are executed in order of top to bottom. So if we smooth something before we join it at the center, there might be some undesired effects. I'm going to turn up the merge value to about 0.1, and that makes it so that the vertices actually snap together from farther away in the center. And I'm going to leave the subdivision as it is. We're going to be bringing this up to where we have it before, and we're essentially just going to be roughly scaling it to about how big it should be. I'm going to make it about this tall. And from the side view, we're going to put the back of the shirt there, the front of the shirt here, and his chest will bulge out like that. We're going to add in a loop cut, and we're going to put it about where his nipple line would be, near the bottom of the pec, and we're going to be moving the vertices to support it. I'm also going to be scaling this out a little bit, giving him a broader build. Okay, and essentially just going to keep adding in supporting loop cuts, building out the silhouette, kind of getting the rough form where it's supposed to be. You got to make sure that you are constantly rotating around, looking at the model, because if you get stuck looking at one view, you can very, very easily miss details that should be very obvious. Okay, so that's the torso. If I turn off X-ray view and I turn off the original mesh, you can see that just by having a square with smoothing on, it actually becomes very, very torso-like, just automatically. So all we're pretty much going to be doing from this point is grabbing some polygons for the arms, and then pulling them out and adding in supporting loops. Now, one important thing that I actually did forget is I have the mirror modifier on, but I haven't done anything to show that. So I'm going to add a loop cut down the center. It is going to slightly change the geometry, but since we're going for kind of a broad, flat chest anyways, it's not really going to hurt the silhouette too much. And then we're going to grab the faces on one of the sides. It doesn't really matter because the mirror does on either side of the axis, but we're going to grab those vertices and we're going to delete them. And you'll see it doesn't actually do anything because we're still mirroring. But it is important because if I had it like this before, when I grab a vert like this and stretch it out, you'll see that there's geometry where there shouldn't be. Like there shouldn't be geometry here. So it's just important to make sure that if you have a mirror modifier on, you're actually using it. We're going to grab this face. We're going to inset it just a little bit because we're going to be scaling it the rest of the way. And we're going to line it up roughly with where the arm is supposed to be. Now we are going to be shrinking this a little bit more, so it doesn't have to be exact, but about like that is where I like to have it. We're going to pull it out ever so slightly to add to the silhouette, and then we're going to extrude it, scale it so it's flat, and pull it out the rest of the way. Just going to bring up my original model to see where I'm taking it to. I'm bringing it to about here, and I'm going to turn off my model. Now, you'll see, this is something I brought up before, but you'll see, since we have so little geometry for it to work with, it's stretching it's smoothing and stretching the vertices that we don't necessarily want it to be doing. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it down to size. I'm going to get it to about the size of the wrist. Okay. Then I'm going to hit I to inset. I'm going to inset it very, very slightly. And then I'm going to hit E to extrude. And I'm going to bring it inward as if it were a sleeve. So right there, you can see, just from doing those two simple things, insetting and extruding, we already have a more sleeve-like shape compared to what it was before we did that. The subdivision surface modifier is extremely cool. It does very cool things, but you've got to make sure that you're doing things that will add to it, as opposed to thinking it will get everything done for you, if that makes sense. I know it doesn't. All right, next we're going to be adding in geometry for the elbow. So you can see on my original model, the elbow is about here. So I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to grab a loop, and I'm going to place it right here. Just like on the fingers, for doing the supporting loops on the fingers, I'm going to Control B to bevel. And you can see it's saved my number of loop cuts from last time. So it still has the cut in the middle for the elbow. But what I'm going to do, because I like the way it looks, is I'm going to grab the center cut and I'm going to scale it in very, very slightly to give it that kind of... I lost the word. Taper, the kind of tapered look. So I'm going to zoom out here, turn off the mesh, and that is roughly what our arm is going to look like, right? So we're going to add in some more geometry here, again, just to support the deformation when we add bones, but I'm going to add a loop cut right about here in between these two, and then I'm actually going to take this point and I'm going to pull it out a little bit so that it lines up a little bit better with what I have established before. There we go. So you can see just by adding in that loop cut, the silhouette changes quite a bit. We have actual geometry to represent the shoulder, and that will actually help when we rig the model. I do want to make this a little bit more square, a little bit more uniform. The rectangular feel isn't really what I was going for, so I'm going to grab this geometry again. I'm going to bring it out just a little bit, and then I'm going to scale it inward just a little bit. I think I can maybe get away with a little bit more. There we are. Yeah, that's the way I like it. I don't typically show the backs of my characters in my animation, so this isn't like necessarily the greatest topology for the back, because you might want better deformation for your shoulder blades and your lats and stuff like that. But for the very simple aesthetic that I go for, it doesn't really matter much. Before we move on to the next part, there is one more thing I have to do, and that is add an inset down here at the bottom so that it looks more like the bottom of a shirt. Now the tricky thing is if I were to inset this as is, you'll see that it's adding in an extra piece of geometry, and that's because we can't actually select both sides due to the mirror modifier. But no worries, there is a solution for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this face, I'm going to delete it, I'm going to grab these two vertices, and I'm going to drag them over just so that they are in the center. You don't have to worry about lining it up perfectly, because again, the mirror modifier is going to snap and merge the two with their respective mirrors. But what we have just done is we've allowed us to inset and then extrude the bottom of the shirt to give it that feel. Now, one more thing that has come up, when you extrude, it creates polygons around that face that you extrude. So we have an undesirable polygon, but we're just going to delete that, and we don't have to worry about it. So that is pretty much the end of the shirt. What I personally like to do is I like to do the same for the top that we did for the bottom. So inset, delete the unnecessary face, drag the vertices over to the center, and then extrude down. It's not necessarily the most realistic element because your neck, the neck of a shirt would usually taper to your neck, but I don't actually put necks on the models that I do here, so we're just going to leave it like this. The little indentation, it helps. It makes it so that the head doesn't clip into the torso as it would normally. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the shirt and the arms. Next, we're going to do the legs. Now, the legs, I do not do them in the best way. You are typically recommended to model, like give actual geometry to the crotch area. That way, when it deforms a lot more evenly. There's less, the less geometry you have, the more geometry has to move to have motion, essentially. So you don't necessarily want that much motion in that area. So giving it lots of geometry to work with is better, but I don't typically do that approach because you don't really see it as much. I can kind of get away with it, is what I'm saying. So I'm going to bring back the original model. We're going to turn down the subdivisions on the pants. And again, just like the shirt, you can see it's extremely simple, like extremely rudimentary. You can probably already tell how I did it, but I have found that it works for me. So it's how I'm going to do these character models forever. Just like the shirt, I'm going to add the cube. I'm going to add a mirror modifier, and I'm going to add a subdivision surface, and roughly bringing out the shape of the hips. Okay, so now that I have the hips, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the face, and very, very rudimentary, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to extrude all the way down to the bottom of the leg. I'm going to scale it down to the correct size. And of course, making sure that it's the correct size on all faces, on all sides. As you can see, even though it looked like it was correct on this side, I very much did not get it the right way over here. So we're going to make sure it's the correct size. And then we can add in the geometry for the other parts of the leg. So we're going to add in a loop cut for the knee. We're going to scale it to size. And we're going to move it to the correct spot. And again, making sure that it is in the correct spot in all angles. No. And we're going to be adding in our supporting geometry up here. So we're going to add a loop, scale it down, and line it up. And you might be noticing that a lot of these steps are very repetitive. Like it's a lot of doing the same thing. And you've got it. Like that's that's pretty much how I go about doing characters like this. It's very simple, very, very easy to do. Very little to do with polymodeling or sculpting. I haven't sculpted in ages for my characters. Um, I just personally really like how simple these characters come out. Okay, you can already probably see the silhouette, but if I turn off the original pants, this is the top of the waist, and then down here is going to be where the bottom of the legs are. So we're pretty much almost there, but just going to finish up at the bottom here. Um, Again, just like we did with the wrist and pretty much everything else, we're going to be adding in a loop cut for support, and then we're going to be insetting the face. Uh, whoops, inset the face, and then extrude upward to give it the appearance that it is the bottom of a pant leg. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the leg. I do have to add in the supporting loops for the knee here. But again, that's just as simple as grabbing the line and then extrude or beveling out. And then I like to scale in to taper. And I think I pulled them out a little bit too far, so let me just pull those down a little bit. And there we go. So that is arms, torso, and pants done, and it's not even been 40 minutes yet. It would be easier to see the silhouette if it wasn't the same color as the background. So there is actually a view that lets it do that. Sorry, I probably should have been working with it, but I do like using the wireframe because it lets me see the geometry a lot more easily. But I might be able to change. I don't think I can change the background. Yeah, I mean, I can change it, but it's not going to be the effect that you're necessarily looking for. So I can stick to the viewport shading view if it's easier for you to see. I just prefer to model in the X-ray view, the wireframe view. It has a setting that displays the wireframe on top of the color. Right you are. I completely forgot about that. I just do not remember how to do that necessarily. Wireframe. There we go. Awesome. See, even I learned something. Okay, so next we are going to do his little shoes, but again, if it's anything like the rest of the model, you'll know that it's very simple. I just grab a cube, throw on a mirror and a subdivision surface. Line it up. And then pretty much just extrude the faces where I want to extrude them. Now, this is technically a little bit different from how I did the shoes for the Grump models. For those, I did just simple pointed elf shoes. They are actually my least favorite part of the model, so I might go back and change them in the future. But for now, I'm going to leave them as they are, but I'm going to do something a little bit different for Brian's shoes. He has runners in like almost every instance of the costume, so I will most likely shade them like that in the future, but for now we'll just leave it like this and then throw a flat color on it. All right, now the last thing that we have to do for the modeling is the head. And I found that the head is actually pretty simple. So we're not going to throw a mirror modifier on here. We don't actually have to, but we are going to use what I like to do is a cube with a subdivision and then apply it so that you have this rounded cube here, and then throw another subdivision on top of that. Now, you might be wondering, since this looks like a sphere, why not just use a sphere primitive? And the problem is with a sphere primitive, even if I turn it down to what it should be, or sorry, 4 here, or no, 8 here, 4 here. So this is very similar to what the other one is, but the problem is since it has a lot more geometry at the top and on the bottom, it doesn't react to the subdivision as well. You can see it's no longer perfectly even. It's actually ovoid. It's a little bit stretched, as it were. And while I can like kind of fix it, I'd rather just stick with the cube with the subdivision. I just like the way it looks a lot better. So I'm going to put that right up here to be his head. I'm going to oh, I like to do it in edit mode so that the pivot stays where it's supposed to be. There. And you'll see that I actually don't scale the head at all. It's the way I have this set up, it comes out the perfect size. So I'm going to line it up just a little bit. There we go. I'll go back and fix the neckline here because it's not like exactly the way I like it, but I did remember that I have to name my object. So Brian Pants. Brian. The reason I'm calling them Brian ... is because this is going to be used in the same file as the other Grump models. So being able to differentiate whose part it is a lot better. Brian Shoes, and then Brian Head. Okay, so to do the little cutout for his face, the way I have it here, I'm going to add a bevel. So I'm going to grab this line here. I'm going to bevel it, but I'm not going to bevel it with that extra loop in the center. I'm going to put the loops to 0. So I'm going to scroll down on the scroll wheel, put the loops to 0, and then bevel it to about here. Now that does, oops. You got to make sure you're doing this with the X-ray mode on. I always forget to keep that on. One sec, bevel. Now you'll see that does very slightly change the silhouette. It's ever so slightly squished because with more geometry to work with, it moves the geometry a lot less. But it's very subtle. It's not really going to affect much, so we'll just leave it as is. We're going to grab these two faces that would be about where his eyes are. We're going to delete them, and you'll see that with this subdivision surface modifier, it is already naturally smoothing out the eye space. Now it is having a very odd effect with the edges here, and that's because edges with no geometry don't get smoothed the same way that edges with geometry do. But that's fine because we are going to be adding geometry. So we're going to grab every face that this empty gap is touching. We're going to extrude it inward like this, and then we're going to be adding a supporting loop very close to the front here. And I can see that it extruded in a way that's not really desirable, and it even grabbed some of the back here. So let's go back and fix that, shall we? So extrude inward, and supporting loop. There we go. Now this is still a little bit undesirable, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these faces here, or these lines, and I'm just going to scale them in very, very slightly. There we go. That's a little bit better. So now we have the cutout for where his eyes will be. And you'll see in the original model, if I turn his head off, you'll see in the original model there's actual geometry here to be his skin tone. So I'm going to add that right now. We're going to go back into viewport view, turn on his head, and then within edit mode, we're just going to add a plane. Since it's being added to this object, it also has smoothing already applied. We're going to rotate it so that it's 90 degrees, and we're going to place it right here in the little cutout for his face. Okay, and then from the front view, I'm going to line it up a little bit better. I'm going to scale it out. I'm going to add a loop cut right in the center there. And then I'm going to grab these two faces and bring it inward. Okay. Now what I've found, I'm not exactly sure why it does this, but what I've found is when you add geometry to something that already has smoothing groups applied, it doesn't always do it properly. So all you have to do, you can see that this isn't as smooth looking as the mask is. So all you have to do is right click, hit shade smooth again, and you've got smooth geometry. So that's pretty much it for the head. I'll cover how I do the face in a sec. I just want to go back and fix his neckline here. Not actually sure why it's looking like this. If you're wondering what I'm confused about, it's the geometry isn't acting exactly the same way. Oh, you know what it is? Hold on. Let me turn this off. I think it's because in my original model, this line of geometry is a little bit different. It's actually tapered downward like that. Yeah, I think that's it. I might just get rid of this face altogether. There we go. That's a lot closer to what I was thinking. All right, so in terms of silhouette, that's Ninja Brian. So next we are going to be moving on to texturing. When it comes to texturing, I do things just like my modeling. I do things very simply. So pretty much all I'm going to do is throw on flat materials and call it a day. I will be unwrapping... Oh, I totally forgot. I have to unwrap the shirt because I'm going to be adding his little decal, his logo. Let me bring up the picture again. Right here, you can see his current design is actually different, so it's not going to be exactly this, but essentially you have a character in the center, a letter in the center, and then you have two animals on either side. So in order to get that, unless I was willing to do something like put it onto a plane and then like stick the plane onto the front of his chest, which I don't really feel like doing, we're going to unwrap the chest here so that we can texture it. Now, unwrapping, there isn't really much of a science to it, as it were. You kind of just have to know what you're doing, and yeah. So the way you think of it is, imagine this is made of paper. Imagine this is origami, right? And you have to make it into a flat sheet of paper. So it's a 3D object, but you have to be able to flatten it down to a flat piece of paper so that you can show other people how to make it, right? Origami isn't the right word. It's more like those like paper cutouts, kind of. Like, those things where you can make like a cube by cutting out paper and then folding it upward. That's more what I'm talking about, because origami doesn't involve cutting. So essentially, what I'm going to do, since it's still mirroring, it's actually good because we want the seam to be down the center here at the back. You want your seams to be in the least likely spot that you'll see them. You just kind of have to know what you're doing. Yeah, it's true. There really isn't, like, I can't really direct you how to unwrap. Like, it is kind of a thing that you have to learn, like, properly how to do it. And there is a little bit of, like, you have to have an eye for it. It's you have to know where to put the seams in a way that makes sense, right? Hands are such a pain to unwrap. It is pretty irritating. But I can kind of demonstrate how I'm like thinking about it once I get this done. But there's like a certain way of thinking to get it done. So I just unwrapped the wrist in the way that I would normally do it. Since you're not going to like normally see the inside of the wrist here, we don't have to worry too much about it. But if you think of these red lines as where you're cutting, right? So you have a flat sheet of paper, and then you cut what will eventually be these red lines, right? So you can probably imagine this face like this. You learn mostly by doing, but if you're doing anatomically correct people, there are some guides for how to do it. That is true. But as you can see, not very anatomically correct. So for this case, it's a lot more play it by ear. But you can see here, this is going to be... Actually, you know what? It might be better if I just show you what the finished unwrap will look like. So let me grab all the geometry here. Like that. And then auto unwrap it. And you can see this is pretty much what an unwrap looks like. So what you can imagine is this red line, this seam is... This seam is this line here and this line here, right? So you can imagine them being folded along these edges and touching, like connecting, gluing or taping to each other. And that's essentially how you unwrap. And the name is very fitting because you're taking a 3D model and you're unwrapping it. You're making it flat. You can also see this is where the sleeve is. Like, this is the geometry where the sleeve is. And since I added seams on all but one side, that allows it to be connected on one side like this. Okay, I think I'm going to collapse down the mirror modifier here and just make sure that my seams get carried over. Yep, that's what I was looking for. Now, I don't actually know about this seam down the middle. I might switch that to one of the sides. Okay, and then I'm going to hit unwrap and see if I messed up. Nope, that seems to be pretty good. Just for ease of use, what I'm going to do is I'm going to... These two faces are pretty much what I'm going to be drawing on, or these four, pretty much. So I'm going to grab this geometry and I'm going to rotate it in a way that makes it so that these are kind of upright. And that's just going to make my life a lot easier down the line. Also, what I'm going to do, because when you smooth an object, it does technically change how the UV is unwrapped. So I'm going to take these. This is where the arm is connected to the torso. I'm going to take those and I'm just going to scale them down. I'm going to scale them down because, again, we don't really care about this geometry here along here. So it doesn't matter if it gets quote-unquote stretched. But if I leave it as is, there is a chance that it could overlap with the chest in a way that's not really desirable. Now, there is a little bit of a problem with what we have here. Normally, you don't want to have, like, unless you're using a repeating texture and the seams are in the exact same spot on either side, you don't want to have overlap like I have here. And that's because anything that's on this side is going to be seen on this geometry, and vice versa. Anything that's on this side is going to be seen on this geometry. And that's just because UV island or UV maps like this, they loop, or they tile, I guess is the right word. So we're going to take all of this and we're going to scale it down, not individually. We're going to scale it down all together and then align it so that it's perfectly inside the box. Now, technically, if I wanted to be the most efficient with my space, I would scale it so that these four quads are like the biggest part, because again, that's where I'm going to be doing most of the texturing. But we don't really care about efficiency. It's going to be such a small decal anyways, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a do as I say, not as I do situation. But yeah, that is the torso unwrapped. So we're going to move on to the hands. Or wait, I guess we don't really... Okay, full disclosure, what I wanted to do is Brian has some pretty gnarly forearm hair. And what I wanted to do was draw it on, but it didn't look great when I tested it before. So I think for now, I'm going to leave it as is. The great thing about Blender, something that 3ds Max, which I came from, that's where I learned 3D modeling. But the great thing about Blender is you can do things in pretty much any order you want. So if I wanted to texture it and then rig it and then go back and change the texture, I am totally able to. But to my knowledge, 3ds Max does not really like it when you do that. And speaking of going back and changing things, I am going to scale down these sleeves just a little bit so that it lines up a little bit better with the wrist. Yeah, that's better. And while I'm here, I'm going to collapse down the mirror modifier for all the other geometry as well. Okay, no mirrors left. Now to keep things organized, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these models into a collection. So just by pressing M on the keyboard, I'm going to make a collection and I'm going to call it Brian. And what that allows me to do is switch on and off the models like I've been doing. It also keeps them a lot more organized. It's good practice to do. I'm going to turn down the subdivision here because they don't need to be that high for now. But now I can finally go in and start texturing. So I'm going to switch over to the material view. Do I have lights in the scene? I do actually have lights in the scene. I'll stick to the material view for now, but you do typically want to look at things in like the light that they're going to be used in so that you can get a better feel for the texture. But for now, this is fine. I'm going to call, just like you do with the material, the meshes, you want to keep things labeled and organized. So I'm going to call this black fabric. Because I will be using this material on the pants as well as the shirt. So we're going to go in here. We're going to add black fabric. We're going to go here and we're going to add black fabric. There we go. For the shoes, again, I'm going to most likely go back and texture them later, but for now we can just make a material called brown shoes and just toss it on there. Okay, for the hands, what I like to do with my skin tones is I do like to add a little bit of subsurface, essentially, the way subsurface scattering works is if you take a flashlight and shine it into your hand, you will be able to see a little bit of the light on the other side. That is because of subsurface scattering. It's essentially the way the light reacts to going through your skin. So if I turn it up just a little bit, like to 0.2, you can see that already drastically changes the way that the light reacts. Like this is with it off, this is with it a little bit on. And it gives the skin a little bit more natural of a feel. I am also going to change the skin tone to more of a peach. I did look at reference. Brian's skin is a little bit more on the yellow side, but I'm just going to kind of leave it around here. Again, this is all subject to change. I might go back and change it a little bit later. And the face is actually going to be the same material as the skin. The way you have mesh with different materials in Blender is you add a second slot, you add the material that you want it to be. Oh, did I forget to name it? I did forget to name it. Brian Skin. You go to the second slot, you add the material that you want to add, Brian Skin, and then you switch over to edit mode. You go to the materials tab, you select the polygons that you want to have that material, you select that material, and assign. I know it's a little bit of a convoluted process, but that is how you apply different materials to the same geometry. What else? Okay, so should I do... This is both going to involve drawing, so I'm still going to have to whip out my drawing tablet, but should I do the decal on the shirt first, or should I do the eyes first? I'm going to let you guys decide that. Eyes first? Sounds good. So what I like to do for my eyes, let me just bring up my original model here. I don't actually model them. There isn't really much of a reason to do it because they're so simple in my animations. So what I do is I make a grease pencil object and I just draw some eyes. It's the simplest method. But the unique thing about drawing in Blender is you can actually treat it like geometry. So you can still move around, you can scale, you can rotate. So you're not really losing much going with this method. What it also allows me to do is be a lot more expressive because when you model eyes, there are ways around it, but you do kind of have to lock yourself to that geometry. But if I wanted to, I can actually just draw new eyes whenever I want. Originally, I did do the mouths this way as well, but I did find a Boolean method that I greatly prefer. So for now, the eyes are going to stay this way. So I'm going to go into my object here. I'm going to add a new object into the collection here. It's going to be a blank grease pencil. So grease pencil blank. I'm going to call it face, Brian face. Or I guess, you know what, we'll call it Brian Eyes to keep it consistent. Brian Eyes. Brian Hughes, very clever waffle boy. And now, since we're not going to be conforming the grease pencil to the face, we don't really have to worry about drawing on the surface. So in order to make sure it's drawing in the right spot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit G, and it's going to look like I'm not dragging anything, but you'll see, I just pointed at my monitor as if you could see it, but there's a little orange dot, and that's actually the center and the anchor point of the grease pencil. So we're going to move it on the Y-axis, so that it's right in front of the face. And I'm going to use the grid that I can actually see on the screen to kind of align it properly. So about this line and then a little bit further right there. So now when I switch to my front view and I go into my grease pencil mode, whatever I draw, you'll see it's being placed right in front of the face, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So before I can draw the eyes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a material. I'm going to call it black. Whoop. I got my cursor in front so I can't see. Black. I'm going to make it black fill. Not for now because it's going to be a little bit easier to draw with, but eventually I'm going to be filling it in. But I am going to go in and add a mirror modifier. Once again, one of my favorite modifiers. And that's because I can do half the work and get the same result. So I'm going to draw an eye using just the oval tool, the circle tool. I'm going to hit enter to place it, and there are his eyes. They're not exactly in the correct spot and the correct scaling that I like, so what I'm going to do is just going to scale it like this. I think that's where I had it before. Oh, they're a little bit smaller. Whoops. Thanks for streaming. I gotta go. Well, thank you for joining the stream. This is another note I want to add on. If you, I doubt that anyone's like following along at home, but if you are following along at home, then take a picture of what you've done by the end of the stream and tweet it at me at AaronGisme. You might even see the link, not the link, my handle down at the bottom. I have a scrolling little, I don't even know what you call it, but like it's got some of my socials down there. Okay, so now that the eyes are where I want it, I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab my drawing tablet. There they are. Okay, now this might look a little odd for a sec. I'm going to be bringing Blender down to my drawing tablet. There we go. All right, so now I am down at my drawing tablet, and with the pencil tool, I'm going to draw his eyebrows. I like to have this stabilizing thing applied because I like the smooth lines that it creates. But if the lines aren't quite as smooth as I like, what I can actually go in and do is grab some verts that I don't like and just dissolve them, and that lets me get rid of them while keeping the line the way it's supposed to look. And then I'm going to join these at the center. How do I do that? Control J? F, that's it. Same as it is for geometry. There we go. So those are his eyebrows. Now you'll see that the eyebrow is overlapping the eye a little bit. And that's on purpose. I like the way it looks, and it's not going to look like that once it's filled in. So let's swap over to the material here and check off this fill box. And now you'll see if I go into object mode and turn off the lines here, you'll see it looks a lot closer to the model that I had before, where the eyes are like that. Last thing I'm going to do with the eyes is swap over to edit mode. I'm going to grab the geometry here and I'm going to rotate it and place it closer to the face. Since I'm most likely not going to be moving these eyes around, I don't really have to worry about that too much, but normally I would leave them flat so that they look you know, I don't really have justification. I'm just not going to continue that thought. Yeah, so that is the eyes. All right, now the last thing that we got to do is the decal on the shirt, and then we can finally move to everyone's favorite part of any 3D model, and that's rigging. But well, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so I'm going to swap over to the texture paint view here. And first thing we're going to do in this view is we're going to make a new document. We're going to call it Brian _shirt. We're going to make the fill color black, and we're going to leave it at 1024 by 1024. All right. Now, you might notice that if I what is going on here? If I fill in the space here, it's not changing the color of his shirt. And, that's a bit of a problem. And the reason for that is because I haven't actually used that image texture on my model. So what I'm going to do is in the material node, I'm going to add an image node. I'm going to connect it to the base color, and I'm going to select Brian _shirt. So now, if I head back into texture paint, you can see that it actually changes the color here. But now we have a new problem. And that problem is I have now affected the global shader. So the shader that the pants and the mask we're using. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these. We're going to select the shirt, and we're going to click this little 3. And what that does is it makes a new material that is an exact copy of the other one. So we're going to call this one shirt, or we're going to call it Brian shirt, keeping consistent. And now, when we connect the material to the image, you'll see that just the shirt is being affected. But we don't want it to be skin tone, we want it to be black. Okay. I'm also going to save just in case something happens. Don't want to lose any of my sweet progress here. Make sure you save frequently. I know this is going to be the first time I saved on this stream, but it is important that you save frequently. Now, I am running into a bit of a problem. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. But you'll see that it is not actually drawing when I try to draw. I did have a texture mask on, and that seems to have messed with things a little bit. So there is a pretty good chance that I might have to skip this part and come back to it until after I figure out what's going on here. Nope, I figured it out. I'm a genius. I don't know how a texture got applied because I never actually used a texture. So there are these modifiers that you can do: the texture map and the texture mask and a texture. And the texture mask, what that allows you to do is draw with texture already on it, and it's pretty cool. But it can have weird effects, clearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a yellow tone. I'm going to do a perfect yellow. And I'm going to bring up on my other monitor, I'm going to bring up a picture of Ninja Brian so that I can reference it. Oh, wow. Actually, I just found a really high quality. It looks like an Etsy link, an Etsy store button. Yeah, but the image is really high quality, so I'm going to use that as reference. So essentially, what we've got is Oh, I do want to have. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. So I can see where I'm drawing. Turn this down a little bit. It's still too large. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, that should be big enough. Yes, it is that time. So this is his current logo. This is the one that's on his shirt in Mystic Crystal. If you haven't seen it, go watch Mystic Crystal. It is a very good music video, very good song, very, very well animated. The team over at Knights of the Light Table did an amazing job. And I'm not nearly going to be doing as good a job because this is just going to be extremely rudimentary. It's just going to serve a function. It doesn't have to look good. And I seem to be drawing it a little too large. I gotta bring up a reference where he's got the design on his shirt. Okay, so it does look like it's actually a little bit lower. So let me use. It's read as Zan, which means to decapitate. That's very Ninja Brian like. Well, that answers my question. Yeah, it answers mine too. Thank you, Waffle Boy, for the language lesson. All right, now there are subtle little details that should be here, but I'll go back and put those in afterwards. But first, I just want to get like the overall silhouette to make sure I'm getting everything spaced correctly. So I got a question. I can tell that Murik has some experience with 3D modeling, but have any of you 3D modeled or used Blender or anything like that? Waffle Boy says no. What's holding you back? Nope, would like to try one day though. Hey man, Blender is free, can run on pretty much anything. Go ahead and give it a try. I tried to model in Blender years ago. Yeah, I tried first in high school, and I found it very obtuse, so I put it down. But after going through game design school, you know, you get access to these $1,000 softwares, and then you suddenly don't have access to them anymore. So I figured it was a great opportunity to learn a new software, but also to be able to, you know, sell my own work. Student licenses can be very, very restrictive. So that was a big part of it too. I just wanted to be, you know, free from all that. Okay, now I wonder if I can clone stamp, but like reversed. I wonder if that's possible. I don't even know how to clone stamp. So I guess I will not attempt it. It's fine. It doesn't matter if it's symmetrical or not. I can always just go in like in Krita or something and like modify it. Oh my god. That's actually a really good idea. I might just do that. Hold on. I've been so busy with my finals, I haven't even had time for my 2D animations. Yeah, I mean, school comes first, obviously. But, you know, summer's almost around the corner, so when you get the chance, then why not? Why not learn Blender? It's an amazing thing to have, especially for... I'm, like, extremely surprised at how good the 2D animation tools are within Blender. Almost all of my hand-drawn animations were made in Blender. All right, I think that that dumpy dragon is good enough for now. Yeah, so I'm gonna, as stupid as it looks, I'm gonna leave it like this for now, because I can just go into Krita afterwards and like make it symmetrical. And oh my god, I forgot the wing. I'm such an idiot. Okay, never mind. Just scratch what I was saying. Yeah, I totally didn't space this out properly. Oh, why am I not drawing with freaking smoothing? It looks cool. I appreciate the vote of confidence. I think it looks kind of dumpy, to be honest. I put too much distance on the stabilizer. Wow, this song has a long, long silent intro. By the way, if you are curious, the background music is part of the YouTube royalty-free library. So if you, for some reason, like anything on it, that is where I got it. Okay, that works for now. Save. Save. All right, now for the worst part of 3D modeling, in my opinion, obviously. Let me just bring it back to my other monitor here. I do not need the drawing tablet anymore. There we go. It is now time to rig and skin. All right. So the first step for... Oh, man, this is going to be the first time I've made a rig in so long. The first step for making a rig. We're going to start with an armature. And what you want to do with an armature is these are your bones. So this is essentially how your model is going to move. So what you want to do is place it in places that would make sense. So for instance, if it's a leg bone, if it's the man, I'm so bad with bone names, but if it's like the top of the leg bone, let's just do if this is your forearm bone. Good thing it doesn't talk, so you don't have to make a mouth. Yes, it is a very good thing. So if this is your forearm bone, you don't want it here because it's going to pivot from here. So you want to place it in the center of where it's going to be pivoting, and then again, you're going to want to do that on all sides. So you want it to pivot from where it makes sense, like that. And now it can get a little complicated, especially with stuff that you need bones for, but that won't necessarily be deforming the mesh. Like for instance, you're going to have a collarbone, or you're going to have a chest bone, and then you're going to have to connect the arm bones to it with shoulder bones. But the shoulder bones, in my case, I don't use. So placing those can be a little bit complicated. Even if he said something, you could just move his head lightly, Kenny style. Exactly, yeah. Although he's not going to be saying anything. At least for the project I have planned for him. I'm going to place this in the collection, and I'm going to call it Brian Armature. And now, to kind of show you where I'm going... Is that how you spell armature? I don't forget now. Armature. Nope. Armature. This is the armature that I use for Aaron. Now, I don't actually have those shoulder bones that I was talking about, but I do have these hip bones that connect the legs to the hip. Those are not really skinned for anything, so they're kind of useless. And then in Brian's case, we don't actually need these mouth and teeth and tongue bones, because obviously he doesn't have a mouth. But we are pretty much going to be doing everything else, so the arm bones like this, and the knee bone, and the foot bone, and all that stuff. And what I could do to just be really simple, and what I'm probably going to end up doing for the final model, is I'm going to be... Sorry, getting distracted by my phone. Anyways, what I should do is I should copy this armature and just use it on Brian, especially because the model that I just made is extremely similar in terms of proportions, so I'm really not going to have to edit much. But that's not really going to show much of how I did it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be building an armature from scratch. As much as I don't really want to. Okay, so first things first, we're going to do the lower of the spine bones. What I like to do 2 spine bones, as you can see with Aaron here. I like to do 2 spine bones, a lower bone and an upper bone. It's not really accurate. Obviously, you have tons of bones in your spine, but it's what I find the simplest that gets you the best result. So again, we're going to be lining up the ends of these bones with the geometry here. And if you look at your spine, as you might do on a Sunday evening, your spine isn't straight. It's not straight like this, but it's actually a slight S curve. So you got to make sure you have that slight curve in it to give it, better realistic motion. All right, and again, I mentioned this at the top of the stream, although there's a couple more people now than there was before. If I do or say anything that you want clarification on, just let me know and I'll clarify it. I move pretty quickly. It's only been like an hour and a half, and we're already on like the second to last stage. So, yep, just fire on any questions if you have them. I am going to cheat a little bit and just I'm going to refer to my original one from time to time because it is a pretty good skeleton. Although I am just realizing now that it did things a little out of order for what I should have been doing. I guess referring to Danny's might be a little bit better because his proportions are a little bit closer to Brian's that I laid out. Now, I guess technically we don't even really need this bone then, because it's not going to be used. So I'll just leave it out of this mesh. All right, and I guess now is as good a time as any to say if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy what I do, or you like Game Grumps animated and stuff like that, make sure you hit subscribe, because even though I can no longer do an animation every day, I do plan on uploading content as frequently as I can. Consider supporting me on Ko-fi. That's how you can help support me directly. But the biggest thing that I want to go for is, that 1,000 subscriber mark. I would love to be able to call this a real job. I think I technically should go back in and add some loop cuts up here. I think I'll do that afterwards, but essentially all I'm doing at this point, like for the fingers and stuff, is I'm just going in and I'm placing bones where I made those supportive loop cuts right here, and that way when it deforms, it's deforming from the center of those loop cuts. And then just making sure it's placed in the center of the fingers. Currently working on a Game Grumps Animated 2. I thought I would be done with it soon, but turns out I'm not even halfway through it. I know what that feels like, but just keep at it. The longer you work on it, the better it'll be, the more confidence you'll have in it. So take all the time you need. Oh man, I forget how to mirror. It's been so long since I've worked on. What am I doing? Symmetrize. What is it doing? Oh, that's right. Okay. There's a really, really important thing that I'm forgetting. In order to symmetrize, you have to make sure that your bones are named correctly. So I'm going to go in. What I like to do is this is spine 1. And then this is spine 2. Spine 1, spine 2. I call this one hip. This one is head. Okay, and then here's the important thing. It doesn't matter where it is, but you have to have somewhere the letter L or R so that it knows which side it is on and therefore which side it has to mirror to. So this is his right leg, so I'm gonna call it L underscore thigh. And then this one I'm going to call L underscore calf. This is L underscore heel. And then this is L underscore toes. Okay, over here, this is going to be, did I say L? Oh my goodness. I've already messed up. R underscore bicep. Yeah, why is it not R? Because I'm an idiot, that's why. R underscore forearm. I'll go back and change them, don't worry. R, it's a long day for me. I've been up, I've been up for like 8 hours. R underscore, what is this, the hand? R underscore hand. R underscore thumb 1 underscore 1. Is this accounting simulator doing anything for you? R underscore thumb underscore 2. R underscore pointer underscore 1. R underscore pointer underscore 2. R underscore pointer underscore 3. Do you love how I'm reading out all the bones as I'm doing them? Fingers 1. Fingers 2. Fingers 3. And now to go back and fix my my mistake. So this is R thighs, R calf, R heel. That's not how you spell heel either. And R slash toes. Okay, now what I can do is if I go and select the things I want to symmetrize, bam! That's exactly what we wanted. And here's the cool part. It actually already switched the R's to L's. Now, while that is cool, we're not quite there yet because I still have to do the IK chain for the leg. So if I switch over to my Aaron or Danny model, you'll see that there are these little extra bones that I didn't put in the Brian model yet. That's the knee bone, which tells the model which way to point the knee. And then there's the heel bone, or the foot bone, which tells Blender where to raise the leg to. So these work in tandem in what is called an IK chain. And IK stands for inverse kinematics. Don't ask me why. But essentially, it automatically places the leg bones where it should be based on where the foot and the knee should be. Right? So it's how game design usually does animation, and it's pretty much how everyone does animation. So something very useful to learn. Now, you're going to be learning with me because I've completely forgotten how to do IK chains. Looked up r/toes and it has over 9,000 members. That's pretty cool. That's a good growing community. Let's see. How do I do this? Let's see if I can remember. Okay, well, first things first, I gotta grab not pose mode. Oh, I do have to do some stuff with linking the bones. Sorry, things are out of order because it's been so long since I've done this. Keep offset. Okay, that's correct, but this arm is not linked correctly. No, not code. Well, how do I clear parent? Clear parent. Oops. And just making sure that everything got linked correctly. Okay. All right. Perfect. That doesn't really control anything. That's the ticket that we're looking for. Yeah, that's good. This should rotate everything. Perfect. This is... yeah. And then... yep. And yep. Perfect. Okay. What was I doing? Oh, right. Knees. I'm going to grab the knee here. I'm going to extrude it out. I'm going to disconnect. Break. How do I... okay, like that. And then do the same thing here. Okay, so, okay, this one you set not to deform, I think. No, these ones you set not to deform. That's the trick. Okay, those don't deform. I think I should make it so that the hip doesn't deform either. I can't remember. No, I think the hip... no. Well, it doesn't matter because it's gonna control everything anyways. So I guess just like don't deform. Perfect. Okay, and then hand will deform. Everything else deform. Yeah, I think we're good. These just don't. Oh, they are deforming. Wait, why? Okay, yeah. Okay, so these don't deform. Right, and then I think I grab this bone, and I'm inverse kinematics. Yeah. Okay. Target is... oh, I forgot to name them. Okay. I told you it's a learning process. We'll get there. R knee, and then r/foot. Is this knee isn't flat? How did that happen? This flat? Okay. Well, you know what? I'm gonna delete these for now, and then I'm gonna make some new ones. Yeah. Sorry, I can't remember if it actually matters if they're flat or not, but I'm just gonna redo them to make sure they're flat. Okay, grab the bone. Do. Oh, these don't deform, that's right. Oh, and I gotta rename them too. Gosh darn it. Our knee. Our feet. Grab the bone. What? What? Wait. Am I stupid? Am I missing something? Where's IK? Oh, I think I have to be in pose mode. Yes, that's it. Okay, target. I think I set the target to this. And then foot. Okay, and then the pole, I think I set that to knee. Okay. Oh, and then 90? I think, yeah, you gotta find... Oh, no, what's it doing? What's the setting? What? Okay, I'm gonna cheat. I'm sorry. I gotta though. I got to cheat. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I just gotta make sure I'm doing it right. It's been too long. Pose. What did I call it? Leg 3. IK. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I'm trying to think. Okay. Let's turn you off. I think the problem is that I didn't extrude the knee. I just created it. So let's get rid of you. Let's get rid of you. Let's make you again. What is it? It's hot. Think. I really don't want to have to pull up the tutorial that I used to do it, but I might have to. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, did I think I did it? Yes. And then 90. Nope. Okay. Nope, that didn't fix it. Okay, well, at least it's rotating like freely of everything else, so that's fine, I guess. What is happening? I don't want to have to bring up this tutorial. Okay, you know what? I gotta. All right, so if you're wondering, this is a tutorial that I followed to make this IK chain from a YouTuber called Royal Skies, I believe. Royal Skies. Yes, Royal Skies. He has a video about IK chains, and that's what I used for doing this. And I remember there's like a really complicated thing to doing it. I just can't remember what it is. So let me just watch this quickly. Okay, so we extruded the... Oh, wait, is it because it's parented? Nope. Cool. Okay. Back to the video. Okay, I might have to just live with it like this, unless I like copy the rig, which I very much might. But that kind of defeats the purpose. But it is working. Like that's what it's supposed to be doing. I'm just like a little confused why it's doing that. So I think I'll just leave it like that for now because I'm lazy. Yeah. All right. So gonna grab these. Going to symmetrize. Okay. So that is correct. Let me just make sure that all the bones are named correctly. Bicep, forearm. Hand, finger, pointer, thumb, knee, foot, toes, heel, half thigh. All right. So now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make these bones unselectable, and that's because once the IK chain is set, you don't really want to have the ability to move these. So I'm going to click on these guys. And I'm just going to turn off the selectability of them. So now, if they're not selected, I can't grab them. So the way I move the leg is with the IK chain. All right, so that's it for the skeleton. Now the last step of this is to parent the armature to the mesh and add some skinning. So I'm gonna I forget exactly how I did it before. I think it was so I grabbed all the mesh like that, and then with automatic, it's going to be like fine, but it's not really going to be exactly what we're looking for. So let me just let me test this out first. Yeah, so already you can tell like it's doing things it really shouldn't be. So I am going to have to go in and do a lot of this by hand, which is fine. I expected to have to do that. Let me just make sure that the foot is Yep. When I first opened Blender, at first I saw a cube there. I thought Blender just gave me a cube to model, just like a clay. Later I realized that I can't model it, and then I deleted it. I don't think it's that you can't model it. I think it's just that, yeah, it's best practice to not use the default cube. Okay. Yeah, I don't like this armature. I'm gonna delete it. And I'm going to copy the armature that I have for everyone else. It is what it is. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to, so it's, yeah, whatever. I'm not exactly sure why it's showing up in two places like that. I think it might be because it's still like somehow linked to Aaron when it really shouldn't be. I'm not gonna worry about it too much now. I am, however, going to get rid of these face bones that don't need to be here. And I'm also going to be adding in an extra foot bone. You know what? As stupid as it might be, I think I'm actually going to go back to I can't make up my mind, man. I can't. I'm so bad at this, but I'm gonna go back to this rig. I don't know. It just seems like it'll be easier to work with than to start fresh again. Yeah, I can work with this. Now, how to go about skinning. Skinning, like I mentioned, is the worst part of animating like this. Okay, now, by default, Blender does this really odd thing where it lets you... What is going on? Why couldn't I select anything? It does this really weird thing where it lets you weigh more than... It lets you weigh 100% to more than one bone, which is like kind of batshit, in my opinion. Yeah, so we're well, what I have to do is I have to essentially like go through each bone and like find bones that I don't want to affect it at all. Although now it's looking like it might not be doing that. I might have switched the setting or something, but yeah, weird. Let me just make like 100% sure that it's... Oh, okay. No, it seems to be fine now. I think by default it does it, but I don't know. Maybe they changed that. Sorry, just responding to something on my phone. What was I doing? Right, skinning. Sorry, I get distracted pretty quickly. Okay, so what I like to do for skinning, the method I found works best for me is I'll go in and I'll do these really big like general assignments, right? So I'll say like you be 100%, you be 0, whatever, and then later with the brush I'll go in and I'll like pose it and then make sure that it's deforming properly in different spots. Oh, see, this is what I'm talking about. All right, so it's already starting to do it. So you can see that when I'm moving the top spine bone, the bottom of his shirt is moving, even though I told Blender, "Hey, assign the bottom of the shirt 100% to the bottom spine bone." So it's a matter of like you have to go in and like literally tell the software like, "Do not move these bones at all." It's like kind of irritating and a little counterintuitive. And what I was saying before about being able to normalize it like that, I think that's actually like only part of like the brush tool. It's like one of the options you can click. Yeah, auto normalize. So that makes it so that when you brush, things can't be 100, like more than one bone can't be weighed 100%. But there's no such thing for the box select, which is kind of irritating. Yeah, see what I should have done. I should have done this. I should have just started with like 0% weights, and then painted what I wanted to be in, because that way I wouldn't have to like clear away stuff that's like unnecessary. Although I'm still kind of making like pretty good time, all things considered. This morning when I did the test model to prove that I could do it, I think it took me about 2 hours just to make the model, and we're like just over 2 hours in, and like we're already on the last stage. So we're doing pretty good so far. All right, let's see how that looks so far. Oh, I totally forgot that yeah, I'll handle that later. All right, so now this is a good way to illustrate the point that I was talking about. So this is a good example of like supporting geometry kind of doing its job. Although you can see like since I've been going so aggressively, like 100% or 50% or 0%, I'm still getting that intersect in that spot. But like the shoulder here is a great example of like how good being subtle can be. So like you can see there's a lot of self intersection, and then this is being pulled in a way that it shouldn't be. So I think if I take this and put it to 50%, that'll be a lot better. Or not 50%. I mean lower than that, like 25 or something. Actually, putting it to 25 might just be perfect. Nope. Oh, is it because? Hold on. I think it's set to 25 on the bone. See, like this is another thing. It's a little irritating. Yeah, because it's set to 0 here. It's just like going along 100%. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, now to do that one. That's doing weird stuff. I think I'm gonna go back to just weighing it like 100%, calling that good enough. I think that should be fine. I can't even like remember how I handled it on the Grump models, but I'll call that good enough for now. That's what I should rename this stream to Good Enough. Oh, this song sucks. I remember that. Okay, so something I also like to do is making keyframes that will help you see deformation a little bit better. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to bend this forward, I'm going to bend this forward, I'm going to bend this forward. I'm going to bring his hips down a little bit. Kind of like that. So what on earth? Why didn't that? Okay, so first thing before I go back into the skinning, I do remember that I have to put in an object constraint, I believe to armature? It's either armature, there's like a specific to the bone one, but I think it's just armature. Add a target bone, Orion armature to his head. And now, when I move the head bone, the eyes will follow it. So you can see the eyes are now down here in the correct orientation, so that's just what that does. Okay, so now that I have these keyframes like this, I can actually go in and see like, oh, this is deforming in a weird way. So I can go in and adjust it. And I'm actually going to switch to the paintbrush here because I want it to normalize properly. Yeah, like that. Something I do miss about 3ds Max is when skinning, you actually have this option to mirror your skin. I don't know if Blender has that, but it was a pretty cool little option to have. Oh, we got to the end of this page. I forgot, I gotta set it to like 100 songs per page. This song always gives me some Vsauce vibes. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm not really talking much in this part. It's there. I focus a lot when I skin, so I don't really have much to say, anyways. But pretty much all I do in this point is just like flip back and forth between the fully bent and the fully straight up pose and see what I can do to fix any given joint. So are you starting to understand why I said this is the worst part of 3D modeling? It's gets a little tedious, and this is coming from me. I like tedious stuff. So what I'm doing right now, it's a technique that I picked up during school. Essentially, I'm just painting this whole thing to be weighted to the hand, and then I'm going to go in individually and weigh each of the fingers on their own. And what that allows me to do is, work with kind of a clean slate. I can start fresh with the fingers, which is a little bit easier to work with, I feel personally. Now, the only problem with this method is because it starts out being weighted 100% to the hand, you'll see that the hand is still like thinking that this is part of it. So I have to go in and like tell it, stop using this part. Stop thinking that you have control over this. Now that is just for the parts that it's like weighed 100% to. Every other part, like if I take the tip of the finger and weigh it 100% to the bone, then it'll just ignore it. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. The scroll wheel on my mouse is starting to go, and it's been doing weird things, so I gotta get a handle on that. Okay, so if you thought that took a long time, I hate to break it to you, but I have to do it again for the other hand. I have to do all that again for the other hand, because to my knowledge, there's no way to mirror. Yeah, to my knowledge, there's no way to mirror weights properly.
scared. Samurai sword on my back.
What have we got so far? I have already skinned the right hand. I am currently skinning the left, and then I have to do the legs and the feet, and then that's actually it. Just those three things, and then this Brian model is finito. You guys should give me some ideas for poses that I can do, because I'm probably going to pose this and then post it on Twitter. What I'm thinking of doing is probably I'm gonna model like a really quick kunai and then just like give it to him and he's like standing and threatening you. Damn, that looks incredible. When did you leave the stream? I don't know if you last saw it, but we have already textured him too, or mostly. I'm gonna fix this emblem part, but yeah, like he's pretty much done. Sorry, my scroll wheel is still freaking out like that. I don't understand what is happening. Oh, I weighed it to the wrong bone. Whoops. I do that from time to time, but like you can see what happened. Ah, my ears are starting to hurt from my headphones. You got on right when I started, hopped off to play some Minecraft, and then came back. Yeah, so we got a lot done. We're currently 3 hours in, which is about an hour or so faster than I thought this would take. I thought this would be about a 4.5 hour thing, but I would not be surprised if I'm finished in the next like half hour or so. Yeah, it's just these fingers are murder. You know, just I could take one finger, but like just doing all of them, taking all of them is too difficult. Gotta hop off. It was fun seeing the progress. Love how it looks. See ya. Make sure you check my Twitter within the next couple hours because I will be posting a final render of this. But glad to have you. Oh my god. You know what I just realized? He's not going to be able to hold up the middle finger. Oh, crap. Alright. Alright, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll finish this model as it is now, and then eventually I will make that change. I will give him extra fingers. I don't even know how I missed that. Because I'm lazy, that's why. Maybe, you know what I might do? I might make like a second set of hands that he switches to flip off the camera. Because I do kind of want to keep it like consistent with the Grump models having these finger chunks. But I might do that instead. It's not a bad idea. It's it'll look pretty alright. Okay, I think that should be pretty much it for the hand. I do have to add in this little bit here. Okay, that's it for the hands. Now to move on to every other part. Oh, I forgot to do the thing. I forgot to do the extra geometry at the top here. I might have to go back and do that quickly. Yeah. There we go. Just a little extra geometry makes it easier.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Okay, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to do on stream. So for the couple of you remaining, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for staying till the end. And if you're watching this as a VOD, also thank you for watching. Yeah, keep an eye out on my Twitter, because I will be posting the final image once I am finished with that little detail with the logo and stuff. But yeah, I'll leave you off with this. This is pretty much what the final model will look like. So thanks so much for watching, and